Sarvakaryeshu sarvada Saraswati namastubhyam Varade Kamaluhe Vidyarambham karishyami Siddhir bhavatu me Samasta jana kalyane Niratam karunamayam Namami chinmayam devam Sadgurum brahma vidvaram Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Om Namah Shri Shankarananda Om Namah Shri Shankarananda Gurupadam Mujanmane Gurupadam Mujanmane Savirasa Mahamoha Savirasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmani Graha Grasaika Karmani. There are two verses that deal with the resolution, inquiry, ascertainment of the Pañcadaśī Mahavakya, like there are two verses that deal with all the other Mahavakyas in this 5th chapter of the Pañcadaśī. And the last of these two verses, verse number 6, that deals with this Pañcadaśī Mahavakya. It ends with the word Anubhuyata. Tat Aikyam Anubhuyata. And I told you it's the most significant phrase because all the Mahavakyas, whichever they are, I told you, that Mahavakya means Jiva Brahma Aikya Bodhaka Vakya. Iti Mahavakya. Mahavakya is a statement which reveals the identity, the oneness between Jiva and Brahma. That is what makes it Maha. And here it says, Tad Aikyam Anubhuyata. That Aikya, or that oneness between Jiva and Brahma has to be experienced. In other words, if it is not experienced, that remains just as intellectual knowledge. And the person walks around with this intellectual knowledge, and he has one more feather on his shoulder, but that is all. Nothing. I don't know what you call feather. Feather in the cap. Right. Chip on the shoulder. Feather in the cap. So, this Anubhuyata, or what is called as Anubhuti, the Shruti, where we listen to from which we listen to the truth. There is Yukti, where we do logical logical, rational analysis of what we have listened. And there is anubhuti, which is acquired through the nidhyasana or meditation. So anubhuti means experience. So it says anubhuyata, it should be experienced. And that is what we started seeing yesterday. We have seen already the derivation of the meaning of Tattvamasi Mahavakya by the use of Jahal, Ajahal, Lakshana. Just to go over that briefly, the Jahal, Ajahal, Lakshana is where we employ both Jahal Lakshana, where we drop, in Jahal Lakshana I told you, we drop the Mukhya Vakya and or what is called a literary sense, and Vachyartha, and we take Lakshyartha, right? Means to say, we take the indicated meaning. So we drop total. That is in Jahal Lakshana. Like the one, the village on the Ganga. Gangayam Roshaha means there is no really. If the village was there at any time on the Ganga, it would have floated away. That is why it is not there. There is no village on the Ganga. It means it is on the banks of the Ganga. We drop that meaning, we take some other meaning and live on the main road. Then we saw Ajahal Lakshana, means we don't drop the meaning totally, we add something. Means we don't take that meaning, we add something to get the indicated meaning, like the red runs, Shona Dhavati. The red runs. So means the red horse runs. We keep Ajahal, we don't drop red, but we add horse. So now, in this Tattvamasi, exactly the same thing we do. We use the both of them now. You can't just use one. So when we say this individual, so we said that individual is referred to as Tvam. That individual stretches from this body, which is gross body, to subtle body, to causal body, but the individual goes deeper than that. So, gross body, subtle body, causal body, and then inside that individual, you know that our nature, I told you, the nature of the human being is of the nature of knowledge. Isn't it? I am a knowing being, isn't it? So that is the deepest part of his personality. So I am more than I am ignorant also. Correct or not? So that deepest part we keep now. The rest we drop. So we keep some part and we drop some part. Like in that Jahal Lakshana. What do we drop totally? We drop. See, now when we keep that part of that individual, the deepest part of the individual, then we drop things like the finite body, the miserable antakarana, all that. So we are keeping some part and dropping some part. So the both things are being used now for Ishvara. There are things like Sarvajna, Sarvavyapi, Sarvashaktiman, that we drop and we keep some part of. Now, to the individual, remember in Ajahal Lakshana, we keep some part, but we also add. In Ajahal Lakshana, we add. So now to the Jiva, what we are adding? Ordinarily to the Jiva, all of us think we are finite. We are limited. We are bound. To that part of the Jiva which we just said is of the nature of knowledge, we are adding now what? Infinitude. We are adding eternity. We are adding like that. Means we are understanding that these are the qualities of the Jiva which nobody understands ordinarily. Isn't it? We are dropping things like this Jiva is merely body, mind and intellect, or what we are calling gross body, subtle body and causal body. So we are dropping that Jiva is more than that, and we are taking up now something. That Jiva is of the nature of pure Satchit Ananda. So in this resolution of the Tattvamasi Mahavakya, there are both the things that are being used, Jahal and Ajahal Lakshana. You're keeping some things and adding some things and all. Both the things are happening. So anyway, now, when we, after doing that, Ekata Grahyate Asi iti. The Asi word in Tattvamasi is to bring the oneness, and I told you Mahavakya is about this oneness. That Ekyam Anubhuyata. That Ekyam has to be experienced. And now we started the process of how the human being experiences something. He experiences that something in a two-step process, which is actually a one-step process with two aspects. With two aspects, if you will. That is perhaps a better way to say it. The mind, which is called in broader terms the Antakarana, goes out through the senses, whichever sense at that time, goes out through that sense organ and envelopes the object. Goes out and envelopes the object. Now see, the mind cannot do that if it were not enlivened by Chidabhasa, correct or not? That mind is jada by its own self, is inert. So it is enlivened by Chidabhasa, consciousness. Yes. Enlivened by consciousness. Then only that mind is capable of doing that. Going out and enveloping an object. So when that Antakarana goes out, mind goes out, envelopes the object, it in so doing removes the covering of the object. I told you, see, if it were there, I will not know it is there. Then I have to turn the mind and allow through the eyes. It has to go out and now envelope the object. At that time, two things take place. We say in serial order, but the serial order is very tricky. One is avarana is removed, means to say the covering or the veiling of the object is removed. And that mental modification of the mind, when the mind goes and envelopes that object, it takes the form of that object. That form, taking the form of the object is called, the mind takes on a vritti of the object. Now, vritti is a technical term. It's a mental modification. So, if you want to put it in ordinary language, when I turn my head, the mind goes out through the eyes and takes on watch vritti. It takes on the mental modification of watch. In other words, the mind takes the form of a watch. That is called a vritti vyapti. And at the same time, almost simultaneously, if you want to say, when the covering of watch is removed, the mind, because it is already endowed with that mind, already endowed with the conscious principle, which is called Chidabhasa in this case. Illumines the watch. That happens simultaneously. Illumines the watch. Because the watch is a jada, it cannot illuminate itself. So the mind illumines that watch or a vritti, and that illumination results in I know the watch. That is the result. I know the watch. So the mental modification is illumined by Chidabhasa, which is part and parcel of the mental modification. Because no mental modification would have formed in the first place if the mind was not endowed with Chaitanya consciousness. Right. So now, this is the process yesterday we saw very briefly about how we perceive an object. Now what is to be noted here is the object is at that time experienced, seen to be, and understood to be as separate from me. It is an external object. So in the cognition and experience of an external object, this is the process which we have just seen. Now, what is our topic? Our topic is Jiva Brahma Aikya. So the consciousness in me and the consciousness in Brahman is one and same. So now you know we have to take a big leap now from the cognition and experience of an external object to the cognition and experience of my own self. So it cannot be of the same type of experience now, isn't it? The cognition and experience of an external object is what we just saw. There is vritti vyapti, and so when it says that process ends, it's called a phala vyapti. Phala vyapti, it means when Chidabhasa illumines the vritti, saying, I know this thought. It's called a phala vyapti. Now if we try to apply that exact same thing to the knowledge of Brahman, what happens? Now you see, study a little bit again about vrittis. That is why we say contemplation, reflection, or vichar, and all of these things are so important. I should study vrittis so much and study the workings of the mind so much that you know how in our everyday life, right? The things that we deal with on a daily basis, how they are just so unquestionable in our mind. We do things because they are our second nature. Like for example, driving. We drive and we do so many other things. Because driving has become our second nature. Walking, everything. The study of these fundamental concepts and ideas have to be so thorough that when I think about a vritti, or I start or I reflect on a vritti, it is like, yes, it is a very ordinary thing to me. It is not something big. It is like my second nature. So let us study this vritti a little bit again. See, I told you about the mind going out and taking the form of this watch. It envelops the watch and takes on the akar. It is called Vishaya akar. Vishaya akar, because it is an external object. Vishaya means external object. Vishaya akar. So Vishaya akar. Now, the study has to be done like this. In the case of a watch, it is a very gross thing, and it has distinct delineations and demarcations. And it means to say all the lakshanas are very distinct. Yellow, round, small, light, that, how many things, right? But the mind is capable of taking on other types of more subtle vrittis. For example, see, in the case of the watch, is a very distinct and well demarcated vishaya. Say sadness. The mind takes on the akar of sadness. And now that's not arising from outside somewhere. Sadness arises from inside. So the mind takes on that akar of sadness. And then that akar, or that vritti of sadness, which is there in the mind, is illumined by the Chidabhasa, which accompanies the vritti. Right? Consciousness which accompanies the vritti. And then I say, I am sad. So the indication is what? The mind is capable of taking on gross vritti and akar, and the mind is also capable of taking on subtler akar. Oh, not take. No. That's why the yogis tell, even sleep is a vritti of the mind. It just goes into one state of sadness, madness, gladness, this, that. And sleep is also one state in which it goes. That is also a vritti. But anyway, with that aside, the mind is capable of taking on subtle vritti also. Not take the vritti of tranquility. You have experienced, I'm sure everybody would have experienced at some time in their life that the mind is very tranquil, peaceful, quiet. You've experienced or not? You see? So that means what? That the mind has just taken on that vritti or akar of peace, tranquility, settledness. Now, at that time I say, oh, I'm so happy, especially when you left. Now I'm left it. Thank you for going. Or something, whatever. But if something led to that, but that akar or vritti is taken. You say, I am peaceful. But that vritti is illumined by the underlying chidabhas. Oh. Now, when we are talking about experiencing the oneness between Jiva and Brahma, because here I experience peace, and then the mind has taken on that vritti. In other words, the mind has to take on a certain vritti for me to experience Brahman. And the experience of the oneness between myself and Brahman is the second step. So the mind has to take on the akar or vritti of Brahman. That akar or vritti of Brahman has two names in Sanskrit. It is called as Brahmakara vritti. Sometimes it's called Akhandakara vritti. You get these two words. Brahmakara vritti, sometimes you will see the same word, Akhandakara vritti. Now, how is this vritti going to be formed in the mind? The vritti of the watch was formed in the mind because the antakarana went out and enveloped the watch, and a vritti was formed, an akara, form of the watch was assumed by the mind. But now mind cannot go out because Brahman is right at the root of the mind. It is the same Brahman which is reflecting in the antakarana, and we are calling it Chidabhas. So Brahman is there. So if the mind goes out to form an akar of Brahman, it will not find anything. To form a vritti of Brahman. So therefore, the Mahavakya, Aham Brahma Asmi, Aham Brahmasmi, has to be meditated on. What? My nature is Brahman. I am Brahman. And again, this is why I keep telling, if an enormous amount of vichar is not done, this also it will only be a mechanical repetition. I am Brahman. And in the literature, we have studied, Brahman is what? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, the scriptures tell. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. The scriptures also tell it is Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarupa. How many different things the scriptures have given to describe the Brahman? It is Akarta, Avokta, it is a non-doer, it is a non-experiencer, it is one uniform undifferentiated reality. When the mind says, I am Brahman, it has to say I am Brahman with all of these various understanding already there in the mind. That means the mind should have done all vichar and all of these words. What exactly is the meaning to say I am one undifferentiated, uniform reality? The mind should have done all of it. It should have reflected on things like Satyam, pure existence. And when we were reflecting coming down yesterday, and one of the previous days we did, we said Sat, Tat Sat. We reflected on Sat, isn't it? But we just reflected on one word. Sat, existence. And I went on for quite some time. So much so that after the class, everybody outside was talking about existence also. Satyam, Jnanam, what is consciousness? Because Brahman is being described in the Taittiriya Upanishad as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahman. And if I am saying I am Brahman, I cannot just say it mechanically without understanding. And that understanding would have come from deep reflection. So now, this phrase, Aham Brahmasmi, has to be reflected on and then meditated on. So, this phrase, or this statement of Mahavakya of the Upanishad, I am Brahma, I am the pure, limitless, infinite, undifferentiated, uniform existence. This type of meditation, again and again dwelling in the mind, results in the mind what is called as Brahmakara Vritti. It is a mental modification. You now see what is Brahmakara Vritti in English and Hindi. It is a mental modification suffused with the knowledge of the oneness of Atman and Brahman, or Jiva and Brahman. But again, the Brahmakara Vritti. A mental modification suffused with the knowledge of the oneness of Jiva and Brahma. That is called as Brahmakara Vritti. Now, I told you the Vritti of a Vishaya is specifically demarcated with Lakshanas, isn't it? It is round and yellow and whatever. Right? And I then took you slowly to the Vritti of sadness. Where are the demarcations? Then you go deeper, the Vritti of peace. Where is the demarcation? When I say I am peaceful, I am tranquil. That type of Vritti is of a special type now, isn't it? But still, in the case of the peace of the mind or the sadness of the mind, it is still an objectified Vritti. Isn't it? Now, in the case of the Vritti of Brahma, Brahmakara Vritti or Akhandakara Vritti, in this case, what is happening here now is that Vritti takes on the form of Brahma, because remember, that mind takes on the form of Brahma. As the mind takes on the form of what? Now it takes on the form of, the mind conforms to the form of Brahman. And so, the avarana, or the covering of Brahman is removed. The veil of Brahman is removed. The avarana, the covering of, which is usually called ajnana, ignorance of Brahman, is removed. But now see the other part. In the mind taking on the form of the watch, the avarana, or the covering of the watch, was removed, and the underlying consciousness then illumined the object, because the object was not Swāmī Prakāshānanda. The object was not Swāmī Prakāshānanda, not self-luminous. So the underlying Chidabhasa of the vritti has to illumine the vritti and result in I know the watch. But in the case of Brahman now, when the mind takes on the vritti of Brahman, the avarana or the covering of Brahman is removed. But that is called vritti vyapti. But the second stage of phala vyapti, that thing cannot happen, because in this case, the object, if we were to say that, let us use loosely, the object which is Brahman in this case, the object is self-luminous. Brahman is self-luminous, so there is no need for phala vyapti to take place, because the object in this case, which is the object of the vritti, is self-luminous, Swāmī Prakāshānanda. That is called as the mind now taking on, conforming to the Brahman, the absolute reality, and this vritti is the vritti of Brahman, and Brahman in this case is different from the Vishayas of the world, self-luminous. At that time, what happens is Brahman is realized directly by the mind. Brahman is realized directly by the mind. Now, this is a big question in Vedanta, and now we'll go into this a little bit also. The question always is there: who is experiencing Brahman? Now, we just said Brahman is abhokta, akarta. Brahman is not an experiencer and not a doer. So if there is an experience of Brahman, then it has to be only the mind who is experiencing. Second question which comes with that, and this is the answer to the first question: who is experiencing? Mind has to be experiencing, and the bigger question which comes now: the mind is finite, and Brahman is infinite. How can a finite thing grasp or experience an infinite thing? This is the big question. Second thing, this question now is made even more convoluted and more complicated by statements in the scriptures. Now listen to statements in the scriptures. There are two types of statements in the scriptures. Scriptures have one type of statement that says the mind experiences Brahman. And the scriptures have another type of statement that says the mind cannot experience Brahman. No, you don't know. Yan manasa namarute. These devotees came up very clearly. That which is not known by the mind. Yan manasa namarute. The mind does not know it. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa. Saha, speech and the mind cannot bring the come back. The mind cannot. At the same time, the scripture says, manasa eva anudrashitavya. It's by the mind alone it has to be seen. Buddhi grahyam atindriya. No, but is Upanishad something wrong with them or what? The scriptures have two types of statements. There's a wonderful verse in the Upadesha, Sahasri of Pañcadaśī. We don't have verse. I want you to listen to it. This is why I'm telling you this verse. Because there is a question which always arises: who experiences Brahman? Now this is the question. We say, because the Shastra says that Brahman is akarta bhokta. Brahman doesn't experience. So any experience which is taking place has to take place in the mind. But then the Shastras have two types of statements. So by the mind it is known. And then the Shastras also say the mind cannot know it. How to resolve it? And please remember, our first instinct should not be that the Shastras are contradictory. A sadhak's first instinct is to see how the Shastras are right. A madhak first instinct is to see how the Shastra is wrong. Sadhak and madhak. Listen to romantic in the Upadesha Samasti. What is it? Adhyaksho hamiti jnanam buddhereva vinishchayaha nadhyakshasya visheshatvat natasyasti paro yataha. It's a most wonderful line. 18th chapter, 159 of the Upadesha Sahasra. Yeah. Na adhyakshaha ahamiti jnanam buddhehe eva vinishchayaha. I am Brahman. Adhyakshaha is Brahman. Adhyakshaha. Adhyakshaha. I want you to see all the words very slowly. Adhyakshaha is the hierarchy. One of the translation of Adhyakshaha is president. The chairman, president or chairman or the boss or the overseer or the facilitator or the witness, like that. So they call it here Brahman. So many meanings of Adhyakshaha. So, Adhyakshaha ahamiti jnanam. I am the Adhyaksha. I am Brahman. This knowledge, he says, buddhi. This knowledge is to antakarani buddhi. This knowledge does not belong to Brahman, it belongs to the buddhi. Vinishchaya is decided, certain, decidedly it is so. Na adhyakshasya avisheshatvat na tasya asti paro yataha. Because the adhyaksha does not have vishesha. Vishesha means the adhyaksha of Brahman does not have particularization. So, particularization means in the pure undifferentiated Brahman, there is no particularization or differentiation of knower, known and knowing. So there is no vishesha is there like that. And natasya asti paro yataha. And since also there is nothing greater than Brahman, beyond Brahman. This is our most wonderful piece, but not applicable to our discussion now. This discussion which is going on here now is who experiences the self. So what happens here now is the mind takes on the akara of Brahman, and I told you it should not be the mind just taking on a sound. Aham Brahmasmi. There's a sound. This is Aham Brahmasmi, with no understanding. Aham Brahmasmi, I should understand what is Brahman. One undifferentiated, pure Sat, pure consciousness also. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. That the mind should have understood. Now it takes on the akara or the vritti of Brahman like that. The avarana or the ignorance of Brahman is removed. And this vritti, having Brahman itself at its fundamental level, that vritti illumines itself because it has Brahman at its fundamental level. So there is no phalavyapti per se, as in the case of the object. Object being external object being illuminated. So now, when this avarana drops, then we employ in Vedanta what is called as Kataka Renu Vat. Kataka Renu Vat is an old adage which is derived from an ancient practice of purifying water. We should perhaps teach this to us. In the old days, there was a Kataka nut. So they used to take that nut and powder it like that. And then you have a bucket of water like this. So you take the powdered nut and you sprinkle it on the top of the water like this. When the nut has a special quality, when that powdered nut comes in contact with water, immediately forms a film, and that film becomes heavy with the water and it sinks slowly down to the bottom of the bucket like that. And as it is going down, that film takes down all the sediments floating in the water. So the film gets rid of the sediments, but also gets rid of itself because it goes down at the bottom. And then from the top of the water, you can just scoop out nice clean water like that. So, Brahmakara Vritti is engendered, kindled, fostered in the mind by constant dwelling on the knowledge that I am Brahman. The knowledge which we have derived from also the Nirupana of all of these Mahavakyas. Brahmakara Vritti is engendered in that mind. That vritti removes the ignorance or avarana of Brahman. But once that is removed, this vritti also goes away by itself. Like the nut that takes away the sediment, that takes away also itself. The vritti also subsides. When that vritti subsides, the person goes into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. If the vritti remains, that time I am in Savikalpa Samadhi and I am experiencing my oneness with Brahma. When the vritti drops, that state is called as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, the one question which is left in all of that is, how a finite mind is able to experience an infinite thing? Well, there is no need, please pay attention to this, there is no need to experience, the finite mind has no need to experience infinite Brahman. All it needs is, see, look here. I started the first day to tell you about this pot. Our pot is indispensable. Bring that pot now. Clay pot, not any other type of pot. So here you have pot. Inside that pot there is space. So there is a certain amount of space associated with pot. Correct? First thing, that space is in any way disconnected from all the other space? No. Second thing, we say because of the conditioning of the pot, we just call it pot space. So, but it is in no way dissociated from the rest of space. It is part and parcel of the infinite space. If pot comes to know this space, which is it is associated with, this clay pot comes to know this space, isn't it the same thing as knowing all the space? There is no need for pot to know all the space. This pot just has to know the nature of this space. Once it knows the nature of this space is inextricably tied to all space. So the mind is associated with a certain amount of consciousness or awareness. So the associated consciousness or awareness we call as Sakshi, isn't it? That is called as Upahita Chaitanya. Sakshi, we saw that on the first day or second day. That mind is associated with a certain amount of consciousness. When that consciousness, which is associated with the mind, now becomes identified with the mind, and the consciousness has lost its identification with the infinite, it is called as Vishishta Chaitanya or Jiva. But whichever state is, that mind is associated with a certain amount of consciousness. So the mind only has to experience that consciousness. That consciousness is at no time dissociated from the infinite consciousness. So when the mind has an experience of that consciousness with which it is associated, the mind is actually having an experience of the infinite consciousness. The next step which has to take place, you have to know that that consciousness which the mind is experiencing and the infinite consciousness is one and same. And this is where the Mahavakya comes in. That consciousness which the mind is associated and which has become identified with the mind and all of that. That Jiva, that's called now as Jiva. That Jiva associated with that amount of consciousness and the infinite consciousness is one and same. So the experience of Brahmakara Vritti, according to the Shastras, belong to the mind. Now, how the Shastras, we still have one more question. How the Shastras are saying that the mind knows that Brahman, and some of the Shastras, some part of the Shastras, mind cannot know Brahman. Well, you can see very clearly from what we have just seen. When there is a Brahmakara Vritti and the mind is experiencing the consciousness associated with it, and I told you the mind is actually experiencing the same infinite consciousness because the space in the pot and the space outside the pot is in no way disconnected. So the consciousness in the mind and the infinite consciousness is in no way disconnected. So it is experiencing the consciousness associated with it. That time, the mind is experiencing Brahman. When that mind goes into Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that time, the individual awareness disappears. And now there is no demarcation of mind, there is no mind at all. So, Mano Nasha, in a relative sense. Mano Nasha. That time, the individual consciousness merges with the infinite consciousness. And the second type of statement in the scripture refer to that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So it's not that the second type of statement in the scripture are contradicting the first type. One type of statement is from one standpoint and the other type of statement is from another standpoint. One type of statement is from meditation, nididhyasana and brahmakara vritti retained in the mind and experiencing bliss. And the other type of statement is the mind dissolving and the person has gone into nirvikalpa samadhi. But there is no two now, there is only one. So the two types of statements are there, because not in any way contradictory at all. They are given from two different standpoints. This is how the mind experiences Brahman, and please remember, mind is Antakarana, Buddhi, the verse which I quoted from the Upadesha Sastri. It is Buddhi which is used. We are using the same, we are using different words to refer to the same thing, the Antakarana. So the Antakarana experiences Brahman, and I told, look here, if you see our chef, they made jalebi. I went in there and I tasted jalebi. Oh, they brought jalebi for me, I tasted. Well, once I taste one jalebi, I tasted all jalebi, but it's all came from the same pot. Pot of jalebi. But you have to go and taste all of it. If you taste some honey from the top of the bottle, some honey from the bottom of the bottle, you have tasted the whole honey. So if the mind experiences the consciousness which is associated with it in meditation, the mind is experiencing the same pure consciousness which is infinite. And in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there is no Vikalpa, there is no vritti, no change, no modification, no such thing. In Nirvikalpa Samadhi, so there is no individual who is experiencing anything. There is no differentiation, and that is why the verse says in Upadesha Sahasri, na adhyakshasya avisheshatvat. In the adhyaksha, in the pure Brahman, undifferentiated Brahman, there is no vishesha, there is no particularization of seer and experiencer and experienced and experiencing. None of that is there. That is in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So, from that state, in that state, there is no mind. So, mind cannot experience that. So, that is the second type of statement in the scriptures. So, otherwise, this thing causes a lot of confusion. What scriptures saying something. The mind cannot go there. Jato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasa. The mind cannot go. Alright, so this is when we said that aikyam anubhuyata. To come back to our statement, that aikyam anubhuyata means to say what now? I have to have a clear meaning of what is Brahman, and I sit down and I meditate. I am that one undifferentiated Sat Chit or Satyam Jnanam, the one undifferent. And that meditation, I am that gives rise to this Brahmakara vritti which removes the ignorance of Brahman. And then there is the experience of pure bliss, because not only Satyam Jnanam, it is also Anantam, it is Ananda. I experience that. Now, how it is done? It just means I have to dwell on it for a long time. Then I am not body, I am not mind. Even when we sit like that and the mind is running here and there, I am not that mind. I am not the mind which is running. I am the quiet witness of that mind. Sakshi of the mind. And like that, I dwell for a long time. I am the quiet Sakshi. That Brahmakara vritti will be sustained in the mind. If that Brahmakara vritti which will remove Ajnana of Brahman, Avarana of Brahman. See? Okay. Now, I don't think there is any need to start our next verse. Because we only have a few minutes. We will see this next verse now on Monday.